Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Tom Rivera, and we're in the Fowl Library at Cal State San Bernardino. It's 1 o'clock, and it's January the 9th, 2015. And our guest this afternoon is Mr. Bob Carrasco. Bob, welcome. Welcome to our interview session, and welcome to Cal State. We are delighted that you're with us this afternoon. And what I like to talk about, Bob, is a little bit about your parents and where they came from. And then secondly, mostly about you and your participation in softball and baseball in the South Colton area and some of the teams that you played with, along with some of the activities that you did as a manager in setting up a league that was very functional back in those days. And then we'll talk a little bit also about what you're doing now. Is that it? Is that okay?
That's fine.
Why don't we get started then? Tell us a little bit about your mom and dad. Where did they come from?
My mom came from, born in Morenci, Arizona.
Where?
Morenci, Arizona. It's a mining town.
Uh-huh.
And my dad was born in Shafter, Texas.
Okay.
And they met in Coachella Valley. And my dad used to work on the farms. And my mother's parents had a farm with their brothers. And they were truckers. They picked the fruit in the afternoon, and in the evening it was in LA at the market.
You mentioned that they met in Coachella. How old was your dad when he met your mom in Coachella?
I have no idea. I know he was 20, I don't know, he was 26 when he got married.
Uh-huh.
And my mother was 19.
Okay. Okay.
So I wouldn't be able to tell you.
And you mentioned before that your dad was 14 years old when he came to the area.
Yeah, he was about 15, and they
Uh-huh.
brought him from Isleta, Texas, to work at the cold and ice plant. His dad was a miner, and we're in New Mexico. He's the one that put the charges
Uh-huh.
for the mines, and he died at an early age because at that time they didn't have no respirators. They didn't have anything.
That's your grandfather.
My grandfather.
That's your grandfather.
He died.
And what mine was he working at? Do you remember?
No, he was just the mines there in San Francisco. That's what he did.
Okay.
He just set the charges
Mm-hmm.
in the mines. So that's what he died from, not from the charges, from the dust.
And then your dad traveled to Coachella,
Yeah.
met your mom there in Coachella?
Yep. My dad was still, my grandpa was still here.
He was?
Yeah, then they came, they settled in Colton.
What year did they settle in Colton?
I have no idea.
Más o menos.
I would say 38, 39.
In the late 30s.
Yeah.
In the late 30s. And where did they live in Colton, Bob?
They lived on O Street. I can just barely remember the house. It was about 3 houses, stores from Esteban's store, Esperanza,
Oh, 7th and O.
7th and O.
Yeah, 7th and O.
Between 7th and O.
Uh-huh.
There was a block between there and 7th Street in the middle.
Right.
That's where they first lived.
Oh, this is where they first lived.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how long did they live there?
I had no idea, but then my dad bought a house on 675 Westell when they started selling the houses, which are only 1 bedroom,
Uh-huh.
1 living room, and a kitchen.
Uh-huh. How old were you when you moved to the new house?
Man. I don't know, maybe 5 or 6, maybe.
Oh, you were still a kid, little
I
kid.
was still a kid, yes. I was a little
Yeah,
kid.
you were 5 years old or so,
I was
6
still a
maybe.
little kid, yeah.
Yeah, when you moved over to, was it K Street?
Yeah, to L.
L Street, L Street. And
See-
that barrio was known as,
Well, we used to kid it, say, everybody asked where you're from. And you couldn't tell we didn't have a name, so I'm from Beverly Hills, for the Cerro, you know.
why did they call it Beverly Hills?
Because it was on a hill.
Uh-huh.
You know, the hill's up here, and then it comes down, and then you have a lot of selva, then it comes down some more,
Uh-huh.
and it goes the tracks and it's flat.
Right,
And then the Paloma Sea goes down some more.
right,
Right,
right.
It goes like this.
So the Cement Mountain,
Pardon?
Cement Mountain was next to you then?
Right at the base of it.
Uh-huh,
There was a field in front of it, around it,
uh-huh.
and they used to grow wheat there, and then they had trucks go up the hill, and they had blasted rocks up there.
Again, Cement Mountain, the Portland Cement Company.
Pardon, that Portland Cement?
And you go down the hill, there was a field there, and then your neighborhood was in that area.
Right.
And because you had a hill, they call it Beverly Hills.
That's right,
The
we did.
barrio of Beverly Hills.
Yeah, just call it Beverly Hills, not Barrios, Beverly Hills. Now it's culture, you put
Yeah.
a Barrio Beverly Hills.
The barrio of
Now it's
Beverly Hills.
Sell for more money.
And tell me, why did your mom and dad move to Colton?
Well, 'cause my dad was working at the Pacific Food Express,
Okay.
and that was a time when they used to ice the cars. And of course, the refrigerated trucks took care of that. And they used to work like seasonal work. And they bring in the crops from the valley, put ice on them
Yeah.
here in Sem Valley.
So the ice plant, the Pacific Food Express, that used to ice the box cars,
Uh-huh.
and they would put vegetables and fruit in those box cars and take them all over the country.
Yeah,
And your dad got a job with the Pacific Food Express.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he loaded the blocks of ice were 300 pounds,
Hmm.
big old blocks. The guys would handle them with a fork, with some tongs.
Yeah.
And they didn't know how to handle it because I couldn't even move one of those.
Yeah.
But they would get him and turn him around.
Anyway, Bob, I asked you about your dad coming to and mom coming to Colton. You mentioned in possibly the late 30s.
Mhm.
And did your dad immediately start working for the PFE or for
Well,
the ice?
he worked for the PFE since he was, what, 15 years old. That's what his dad bought him for. And it was just seasonal work. And then they would get, the season was over, they'd be laid off, and they would go work in Coachella at the dates.
Oh, so they would travel back and forth
Yeah.
to the ice,
Yeah,
to the PFE, and then back to Coachella, and then back to the PFE.
yeah.
So he must have he did it for a long time then.
Well, let's put it this way, he closed the plant. He was the last guy to close the plant. In fact, he was the only guy when they closed it. And I couldn't believe it when they were moving, him and another guy were going to move to Phoenix, to an ice plant over there. And my dad didn't have to go because he had 1 year to serve. And the other guy had 5 years to go. And they told the guy, you either go to Phoenix or you lose your seniority. So the guy didn't want to leave Colton, so he lost his seniority. My dad stayed home.
What was the name of that partner of your dad's partner? Do you remember?
Manuel Beltran.
Manuel Beltran, okay.
Well, Beltran, right?
Yes.
Beltran was. So he stayed here. Him and my dad were the last two people there.
Oh, so the PFE was closing, the ice
They
plant was
closed.
closing?
Yeah, it was closed. Just
It was closing?
They kept it
What year
mowing.
do you remember?
Oh,
58
I
or
don't-
so, 58
How
or
long,
so?
where were we? You guys remember?
Yeah.
Grandpa?
About 58, 58.
Yeah, well, it was a
when they
long time
closed
ago.
it, Yeah.
Because the kids went over there to the closing.
Uh-huh.
My dad showed them around how they made the ice and all
Yeah.
that.
No, you're pointing over there, and who is there over there that you're pointing to? That's your daughter, Elena, your oldest daughter.
Yeah, that's the one.
Welcome, Elena, it's good to see you. Yeah, but anyway, it was 58 or so when they closed the ice plant?
Yeah, and then they told him to stay home and he'd get his check I believe, every 2 weeks
Mhm.
from the Pacific Fruit Express for a whole year till he turned 65.
Mhm.
Then he retired.
Ah, okay.
So I could not believe that sweet deal that he got, but it was true.
Yeah.
He said, you stay home, your check? I couldn't believe it, but he got it.
But he started working early then, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
at 15, and then coming to
15.
Colton part-time, going back to Coachella part-time, coming back to Colton for 15 years until he was hired on a regular basis.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, well, most of the time was hired like seasonal. And, the longer you stay, the better chance you had of staying on the job.
Yeah. And what did he do at the ice plant? What was his specific job?
His job was various jobs. Some jobs he would put the ice inside the boxcars. Other job that he had, he would make the blocks of ice. Blocks of ice are 300 pounds of dry ice. And they put them up in cubes, and then when they put them in a chute, they come down out of a chute, they get tongs and put them inside the
Boxcar?
boxcars.
Uh-huh.
But it takes all in the risk.
Yeah.
So those guys were very good.
They were very skilled in being able to operate and handle the chunks of ice and put them at the appropriate place.
Right.
Now,
And
were the boxcars full of fruit or
They
vegetables?
had vegetable food that was
Or-
picked in the valley, like
Oh.
El Centro and Inyo. They had to ship it to the market.
Oh,
Valley.
so the boxcar had product in them,
Mhm.
and then they would come to the PFE, and the PFE would load them with ice so they can travel all over the country.
Right.
Okay, okay. Now, you mentioned that, I'm curious because you're a baseball player. You've always been a baseball player. Now, was your dad a ball player?
Yes, it was.
What did he play? Where did he play?
It's back in Texas, but he quit playing when they brought him here to work.
And what little town was in Texas that place?
Isleta, Texas.
¿Cómo?
Isleta, Texas.
Isleta, Texas. Now, where is Isleta located?
Isleta is right side of El Paso. He used to have a big mission there for the Indians.
Uh-huh.
And Isleta is now, is just a name that exists there because El Paso took it over.
Ah, okay, okay. So it's become part of the
yeah.
city of El Paso.
Oh, yeah,
don't it? Yeah.
just ate it up.
And he was there until he was 15, then came and worked in California.
Mhm.
Yeah. And he met your mom in
Probably in Coachella.
Coachella?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because they had a farm over there.
Hmm. And what did they grow in the farm?
Well, I guess tomatoes, chiles, onions, whatever grows in the valley. Lots of stuff grows in the valley.
Oh, of course, of course. Yeah. And of course, I guess you wouldn't know because you weren't born yet, right?
You know, I wasn't there yet, but I know what there was there because my uncles had farms.
Uh-huh.
That's what they. It'd be a shame to go see their farm because a lot of times, a specific example, the onions didn't have a price on it. It was easier to just put the disc on the property over. Onions just go to waste than to try to sell it. And the onions were like, I would say like grapefruits, that huge. Same way with the watermelon, cantaloupes.
So if they didn't sell or the price wasn't right, they would plow them
They'd
under.
plow under.
Plow under, yeah.
Yeah, when we were there, you wanted some watermelon, all you gotta do is throw it on the ground, it's open for you.
So your dad, when he moved to Colton and started raising a family, how many kids did he have? You were the oldest one.
I'm the oldest.
And then?
Pete is 2 years younger,
Okay.
and Danny is, I think, 7 years.
Uh-huh.
Younger.
Any sisters?
No, we don't want no sisters.
So just three brothers? Just
Three
three
brothers.
brothers?
I remember my dad asked him one time, he was gonna bring us a sister, he said, well, we don't want no sister. So we didn't have a sister.
So just the three brothers then?
There's 3 brothers. Yeah.
And all of you were raised there on L Street?
All of us were raised in Elm Street.
Okay, very good. Now, where did you go to school in Colton?
First school I went to was Lincoln Elementary School, where the city hall is.
The present City Hall in
Yes,
Colton?
yes.
What years did you go there?
Oh, my God.
Kindergarten?
I went just for kindergarten. Then I went to grad school, where they parked the buses at the high school. They used to have a school there with 4 rooms.
Right now, they park the buses, they're parking for
Yeah.
the bus at the school district?
Yeah, at that time, we used to play war, because the war was on.
Uh-huh.
And we'd be at top, we'd go against the enemy around the trees and all. That's what I kept playing with. But then from there, I moved down a couple of blocks, went to Colton Junior High School.
So you went to grant school, elementary school, and then you went to middle school at Roosevelt School.
Mm-hmm.
Roosevelt
Junior
School.
high.
The junior high school?
And then after my 3 years there, I moved across the street to the high school.
So you didn't go too far, brother?
For 12 years, I went the same way. Same way I went. And the thing is, when I was in junior high, Danny was just starting school, and I had to take him to Grant,
Uh-huh.
to kindergarten. And I Street at that time was Highway 99.
Yes.
And I was supposed to hold his hand as we crossed I Street. And, as a junior high, 7th grade, you don't want no kid holding your hand. So you'd want to get to I Street, so I would reach in and get my hand, and I look around, see who the heck was watching me. So I'd take him across the street, then he'd go all the way up to Grant.
So you were a little embarrassed holding hands with a little kid, eh?
Yeah, I didn't want to get him. I didn't want nobody to see me,
Yeah.
I had a little kid hanging on to me.
Yeah, can you imagine your friends looking at you?
Oh, yeah.
Kinda picking on you?
They probably would have picked on me. Yeah, that was good. Of course, he tell my mom that I didn't hold his hand.
Uh-huh.
First thing, hey, I hear you did not hold his hand. How come? Let's get your excuse. No excuse that you're gonna make us do it any good anyway. You just didn't do it.
Well, were you punished when you got home? Or?
No, they just told me not to do it again till the next time, the next day. But I used to take him every day. I'd go home for lunch and I'd bring him. So we go to kindergarten in the afternoon.
Uh-huh.
And I think we brought him back home. But he had to cross only 4 blocks.
Uh-huh.
But the high street was right there.
Uh-huh.
Lots of traffic.
Now, did your dad participate in any activities in Colton, like, community activities like los progresistas or
Well,
las
I'll tell
fiestas
you something.
patrias or?
At this time, when I was in the 5th grade, they came out with a thing. It's sorry to say that the Mexicans that were there could stay there at Grant School. And they couldn't accept any more Mexicans there. even though we lived in the district. District was what, 4 blocks away?
Uh-huh.
And so Pete got moved over to Garfield. So he spent at Garfield. My dad, all these years, he was going to school board meetings, took off work, Consul Mexicano, see congressmen, see councilmen, see this, this all over. And all the guys from the water would tell me, hey, what happened, Robert? They wouldn't take off work, but my dad did. You go see somebody, they finally let everybody in, back again. And here comes Pete. Pete comes now back, and he's a year behind school now.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they had a while there that people that were already there could finish that school, but then there were no new ones coming in.
What grade were you in?
Probably in the fourth or fifth.
Fourth or fifth grade?
Mm-hmm.
And the ruling by the school district was that no more,
No more Mexicans here. Just the ones that are here can finish, but no, they were not going to admit anymore.
and then they sent the other kids to different schools. And
Yeah, they went to Woodrow Wilson.
okay,
And yet people from Aguamansa, you know, Aguamansa is a long ways from the high school.
right.
They were coming from there, and they could go to the white school. They're 3 times far away. And they could come to the school. But we that lived 3 blocks away couldn't go to the school that was right there.
Ah, and your dad was very active in
Oh, yeah.
trying to change that.
He did change, he got in and finally changed it.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, somebody wrote a book one time about that, it had to do with the guys that went to the Anglo schools.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I went to Anglo schools all my life.
Mm-hmm.
I was, well, I didn't even know that I was Hispanic. I was just a kid, right?
Uh-huh.
And we didn't even know. I mean, all my friends were white. I'd go to their house. They'd come to my house. And, I mean, no discrimination there.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I got to the junior high, everything changed.
How did that change?
It changed because all of a sudden, I lost some friends that were my white friends that I've been to school since kindergarten. And all of a sudden, of course, I knew a lot of people from the Wilson School because for recreation. I go to recreation; they were all there, so I knew a lot of them. In fact, at our reunion, they were kidding me. Everybody was from Woodrow Wilson, and they were calling me a gabacho, a gringo. We had fractions, they didn't because they didn't have teachers over at Wilson. You guys had the best of everything and everything there. And then I mentioned the fact that that I never saw so many Mexicanos come up except when we played basketball against the Wilson. And this little girl, she was a real quiet girl in school. She got up and had chin shown, and she goes, "My people come to save me." You know, and everybody at the table started laughing, you know, at me, you know, say, "My people come to save me." So I brought this up at my 50th reunion. So they're still kidding me about me being at gringo school, doing fractions, speaking. So bam, I hit the table like that, and all the dishes rattled and everything. I said, you know what? Before you guys came, I didn't have any piojos. But as soon as you guys left, I was like this.
That's not a nice thing to say, Bob.
But that's the truth. I said that. But they were, and that quieted everybody at the table down.
But there was a difference, a difference of feeling and acceptance, because you went to the school, grant school, on the other side of the tracks or the 99 freeway, compared to the kids that were on this side and that went to Garfield or Wilson. There was that feeling of, you're not part of us, you're part of them.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, yeah.
It was because years later somebody brought it up that for the Garfield reunion, I couldn't go to it because I didn't go to Wilson. And it's for everybody.
And then, how did it affect you?
It didn't affect me. I never went. I never went to school over there, so it didn't affect me.
Yeah.
I knew everybody there.
Yeah.
So,
But in terms of, you know, being accepted or not accepted, how did?
well, we had the recreations,
Okay.
so that killed the whole thing. You know,
Where was that held? Where were the
at the high
recreation-
schools.
Okay.
The high schools they had like softball and basketball, and everybody would be mixed together.
Mhm.
So actually, it didn't affect me at all.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But I knew a lot of people from the recreations. In fact, one of our guys that never got recognized is real senior.
Okay.
He was a one-man recreation. He ran the softball leagues. He ran the Boy Scouts. He ran everything. He was the umpire. He was a scheduler. He was everything,
Uh-huh.
as far as I can remember.
Uh-huh.
And not once has he ever been recognized.
Before we get too far along, could we get on the record your grandparents' names and then your parents' names?
Okay, my grandparents' name on my mother's side, my grandmother is Maria Jimenez. And my grandfather on my mother's side was Jose Munoz. And on my dad's side, I didn't know my grandfather, but I knew my grandma. She was Albina Gomez. And my grandfather was Pete what was it, Manuel? No, Pete, what? Pete Carrasco. So that was
That was your grandfather?
my grandfather, my
Uh-huh.
dad's dad.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get to know I never knew him.
Mm-hmm.
But the other grandpas I did know.
And your parents,
My
your parents' names?
my mother's parents I knew real well because they lived a long time afterwards. And my grandma, she lived here in Colton.
What were your parents' names?
My dad's name is Roberto Carrasco, and Carmen Munoz was my mom's name.
Thank you.
Well, apparently then, the recreation activity at this high school was a wonderful equalizer for everybody because everybody got together there.
Yeah, that's right.
Uh-huh.
And there was no choice of teams because I think Ray was the one that made the teams. And he's the one that decided who was going to win.
And that was in the 40s, wasn't it, Bobby?
It was in the 40s, early 50s.
Okay.
Because I was already in high school,
Mhm.
and I was pitching in the recreation program. They still had it
Mhm.
in the early 50s.
Uh-huh.
Because I got to pitch against some of the little guys.
Mhm.
But they went on for a long time up there at the high school, at the old baseball field,
Mm. Where was the old baseball field located?
right where the,
Tennis court is?
it'd be right where the girls' softball field is, on that side,
Mm-hmm.
that is right in the corner. It was across the street from Grant School.
Okay, got it. Okay.
But that would be the field, and where the tennis courts would be, that's where the shops were, the shop classes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's where they were at that time.
Yeah. You mentioned high school. Um, before that, when did you start playing ball?
I can remember playing ball, well, bear in mind, pitching in the second grade. I don't know how I pitched, but I remember pitching in the second grade, which is, I was, what, 6, 7 years old?
Uh-huh.
Because everybody grew up with softball, because there was no baseball. So I can remember playing baseball ever since I was a kid. Because in the barrio where we lived, there was bigger kids and young kids, so we were always playing, always,
In the street?
in the street.
Okay.
Till they tell you to come in and wash up, 'cause your dad's coming home.
Yeah. And it was a makeshift
Well, we had,
home plate and first base. And,
yeah, we had actually playing fields, when you played the street, like Reserva had a playing field, and it was just where the tracks, 3 tracks cross, it'd make like a triangle, and maybe home base was a burlap sack, first base a cardboard, second base another cardboard, third base maybe another sack or whatever.
uh-huh.
It was a bases, and just play neighborhoods against neighborhoods,
Okay.
and no umpire, and no umpire, we just played. And we played against, La Reserva, the guys from 7th Street, the guys from 5th Street, the guys from around the church, La Paloma,
Uh-huh.
and all that.
And can you remember some of the members of your team?
Oh, my team, definitely.
Yeah, who were they?
Oh, my team, at that team, I think, Poli Sandeja, Rudy Chavez, Freddy Chavez, Monchi, Poli Sandeja.
Monchi.
Torres.
Okay.
You remember Monchi Torres?
Yes.
He died at an early age. Monchi Torres, El Boss, Los Gonzalez, Los Barreros, that's about it for us. And La Paloma, I was trying to remember, like it's Poli Rivera,
Yeah.
Bravo Saldana, Charlie Zavala, and Max, what was that, forgetting Max something. We played with them, and then we had the guys from 7th Street, from the church. There were some guys there, and then, of course, like I said, we had 2 teams. You had the Yankees and La Paloma, which the Yankees was Benny Serrano, Danny Gonzalez, Aguerito Dominguez was a pitcher.
Alvidar, yes.
That was the Yankees, and La Paloma was the other guys, Charlie and Felix Soto.
Yes. That was the
in
older,
the
yeah.
Campas,
Uh-huh.
in the Campas.
Alfonso and Sam.
Alfonso,
Ramiro.
Timet, Ramiro, yeah. Yeah, I played with all of them. Yeah, they were all good ball players.
Uh-huh. And from your team, your teammates, did any of them have any nicknames?
Well, let me see. We had one guy's name was Nika.
Nika.
Yeah, Nika. You know Nika.
I know Nika.
Yeah, okay, his name was Freddy Chavez, right?
Right.
Freddy Chavez, and we had Lagorre, and
And who was
there was one of my friends,
Frankie?
you know Frankie
Yeah,
Ramirez?
Yeah.
Lagorre, and then you know Goyito?
Goyito, yes.
Goyito. You know
And
him?
what was his name? Real name?
Goyito Gregory.
Gregory.
And then we had La Canca, you know, Oscar Bajarano,
Yes.
and I forget who else we had there for nicknames.
So,
Oh, and Freddie, Rudy Chavez is Freddie's brother with the boss. I don't know why he got the boss. Almost everybody had a name.
I know, it's amazing that, everybody had a nickname.
I didn't have one. I don't know. I might have had one, but I don't know. I don't know if I got one or not.
Oh, you mentioned the high school. When you went to the high school, you had already played a lot of neighborhood ball, right?
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
A lot of neighborhood ball. You went to the high school and you tried out for the teams.
Yes,
As a freshman, what team did you play for?
the JVs.
JVs?
Mhm.
And did you play varsity
I
the
played-
following year?
Yes, I played 3 years in the varsity.
And when did you later?
Well, that brings up a sour note.
Okay.
I'm not sure I should bring it up here now.
Tell me.
Okay.
If not, we'll erase it from the
Okay.
video.
When I was a sophomore, that was a time that Marty Keough, that pitched for Pomona, he went to the Pomona Red Sox, pitched for them. I was a sophomore playing varsity, and I played more innings, and I earned my varsity letter, but they didn't give it to me because I was going to be back next year. They gave it to a senior, Blanco, that wasn't going to be back next year, and he would pitch a couple of games. So instead of being a 3-year letterman, I was a 2. Boy, that hurt. Like, who am I going to go cry to? Hey, they won't give me a letter.
Uh-huh.
I earned it, but
There was no redress of any kind?
nope.
The coach or the
Coach Tom
principal
Morrow,
or the
he just said
principal?
you were going to be back next year.
Uh-huh.
You'll get your letter next
Who
year.
was your coach?
Tom Morrow,
And who was the principal?
McIntosh.
Okay. But you did later the following year?
Yeah, the
Again.
following 2 years, yeah,
Again.
for reals.
Uh-huh.
I really got a letter.
Well, the first one was reels, but you didn't get it.
For the reals, but I didn't get it. They still, somebody wrote it in my annual still there, sorry about your letter that you didn't get.
Uh-huh. So people were aware of it then?
Yeah,
Yeah. And what position did you play, Bob?
second base.
Were you good?
Well, I'll let people tell you.
Say yes.
I don't
Say yes.
toot my own horn. I never have. I'm not like these guys that say, I played against Camilo Carrón, nobody could hit him, but I came up and I hit 5 home runs off of him.
I didn't know Camilo was a pitcher.
No, but I'm not one of these guys that says,
Oh,
that says,
okay,
I come up,
okay, got
Camilo
it.
was pitching, I hit 7 home runs off of him. And then
Uh-huh.
he gave up because he couldn't strike me
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
I played ball, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I was always good enough to play in the team, fortunately.
And what was your batting average?
I didn't hit too good in high school, in the 2s, but I sort of blossomed when I got done with high school, when I blossomed more like a slugger.
Uh-huh.
And then, of course, we were playing like, when I got out of high school, I was playing softball during the night, and baseball on Sundays, playing about 4 or 5 games a week.
Oh, so you were playing baseball and softball at the same time?
Yeah, and I pitched both of them at the same time.
Now, where did you play softball?
I played softball in Riverside, and I played softball in Casablanca, and I played softball in San Bernardino, in Colton, Morelos, well, all the different teams.
Uh-huh. This when you were still in high school?
No, in high school, I was playing the different teams. I was still playing softball.
Uh-huh.
You had to be careful, because if you played softball during the school year, they kick you out.
Ah, okay.
You can't play
Okay.
another sport.
Okay. Now, your teammates, do you remember some of your teammates that you played with in high school?
Oh, sure, they're right there. I just met some of them in my 60th reunion.
Uh-huh.
Some of these guys are, well, only some of these guys,
Well, you have your annual here.
I have my annual, that's
You
my
have your
junior annual.
This is on page 109, and What year was this, Bob?
That's 1953. Yeah, so you see this here?
Did you graduate in 1954?
Yes, this is a year before.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, all these guys were sophomores and seniors. We were the only sophomores, freshmen on this side.
There's three of you.
Mhm.
There's you and Sam Gardner, and who else?
Jim Bergman.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I met him the other day. I hadn't seen him since our 50th reunion.
Mm-hmm.
We sure look different now. All these guys were seniors. All these guys right here.
Uh-huh. So this was a 1953 team,
Uh-huh.
and you graduated in 54?
Yeah.
Okay. After 54, did you continue playing ball?
Yes, I sure did. I got to playing ball with the, well, my dream when I grew up, in my annuals, I wish you luck with the Mercuries. I want to play for the Mercuries because that's all I ever saw.
Well,
The
tell me
Mercuries.
about the Mercuries. How did they influence you? How did they influence you?
Well, with the Mercuries, I've got the story someplace in one of these books. It actually started with some girls call themselves Senorita Mercuries. They they were the softball players during the war. So when the guys started coming back from the war, they took the name of the Mercuries. And that started about 1945, 46. And then they had a place to play. And then Gabriel
Castorena,
Castorena
uh-huh.
took them over, found a field with lights, and they would play every Sunday baseball, and during the week they would play softball.
So, right after the war, Gabby Castorena took over as manager,
Mm-hmm.
and he was able to put together a team,
Very good team, yes.
a very good team. And now, tell me, how did that influence you? Because you were still a little
Yeah,
kid.
I was still, I go see those guys play.
Mhm.
And I wanted to play like those guys. I mean, there was Yankees, or Dodgers, but they were like,
Yeah,
they were not here.
they were not like your local heroes.
No, they were not local heroes.
Uh-huh.
I wanted to play for the Mercuries, and
Uh-huh.
maybe one guy, a senior, makes a team for the Mercuries and said, wow, he's playing for the Mercuries. So I want to be that guy. I want to be playing. I played with him for about a year,
When did you start playing for the Mercuries? Right after high school?
right after high school, 54. And I only played for about a year with him.
Okay.
And I missed all the pictures they have. I don't know why, I should be in them, but I missed all the pictures.
Uh-huh.
Then I went to play with San Bernardino.
Uh-huh.
And with San Bernardino that time was, all the older guys that were retiring, so all of a sudden, all the guys who were going to high school with me started coming to play in San Bernardino. So San Bernardino was getting all the young guys, and Mercury's were getting the old guys.
Okay.
So at first we used to play against them, used to bang us around. Then we got bigger and older, started playing some good ball with them. I still remember, that was the game. That was our game.
So when you were 18, was it 18?
Mhm.
You started playing for the Mercuries,
Yeah.
and you played with them for 1 year.
Mhm.
Was Gabe Castorena still the coach?
No, Gabriel Castorena was not the coach. My father-in-law was the coach then.
Oh, tell me about that, because your wife also comes from a long tradition of baseball players.
Yeah.
So tell me about your father-in-law. He was a coach of
Yeah,
the
well,
Mercuries.
my father-in-law was a baseball player, and my wife's brothers were baseball players. They came from El Paso.
Mhm.
And he took over the Mercuries. I think Chevo had him. And my father-in-law took him over, which becomes someplace in there, the Cone Lumber. But they were the Mercuries all the time, and he won lots of championships with them. And 1 year he even helped coach us. But when we would play against the Mercuries, my father-in-law would not talk to me. And especially if we beat him, he wouldn't talk to me. I'd go to the house and that's how I was greeted at my father-in-law's house. He didn't talk to me. But I don't know what my wife went through it. She had her father and two brothers on one team, and two brothers and me on another team against her father's team.
Well, listen, I went to school with one of your brother-in-laws. I can't remember, one of the youngest of the
Felix.
Gomez. Felix. What were the name of the other brothers?
Well, from the start is Jose Eduardo, he was called Lalo, then Willie Gomez,
I
called
remember
Pichi,
Willie.
Pichi, and then you got Felix, and then you got David Gomez, and then you got Danny Gomez. There's 5 brothers and 5 sisters.
Yeah. but the oldest brother was the one that played ball.
All 1, 2, 3.
And
The
Felix
first-
more, yeah.
The first 1, 2, the first 3
Yeah.
boys played baseball. The other one didn't.
Right.
Yeah, Joe, Willie, and Felix were
Mhm.
the ones that played. And we played on the same team and I played against Felix in a lot of teams, with him, same way with Willie, with him and against him. So but everybody, it was a sport. It was not, it was just, like nowadays, all I want to do is fight after the game or whatever.
Well, with both families being, just very much involved with baseball, were your kids also ball players?
Yeah, and my kids and my girls all played softball. My boys played, one went to wrestling, but the other two went into volleyball, and they were soccer players and swimmers.
Uh-huh.
What was your father-in-law's name, the coach?
Joe Gomez.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's in this picture someplace.
And then you have your picture of your grandson, the 14U. Can you show us that picture?
This is one of them.
Uh-huh.
I think that's a blowout of that one there.
Now, what was this?
This was a 20, this is at least 6 years ago. The kids were coming out of a pony league, and I wanted to have a team, because my wife, I was criticizing the coach. I says, "Why don't you coach?" Instead of criticizing, okay. So I went and asked this guy, he wanted to be my coach. You see, because this guy was a coach at a team, all he did was scorekeep. I said, you want to be my coach, Gabriel? And you're one of my coaches, not my scorekeeper. So he had a son, so those are two kids, him and my grandson on the team. They were all 14 years old.
Uh-huh.
And this style of uniform is the one what the Mercury's had in the late 50s, late 40s. Because you see a lot of trim, because they don't have trim now. And these things were made in Los Angeles. And when I saw these uniforms, I thought the guy didn't know what he was doing, because you look at the numbers, and they're European numbers. They're soccer numbers.
Ah, okay.
You look at some of these other numbers, and they're a little bit different. At first I said, "Oh, that guy sure did a job with the numbers." But those numbers are European numbers. And I just did this to have a team it was sort of be like more or less like a travel team. It was, but there was no restrictions. No restrictions on what you did. You want to be on the team, you played. Come and practice, you played. And my motto is, you're on the team, everybody plays every game.
Mm-hmm.
Every game. I don't have 15 guys who sit 15. I had 15 guys to play 15.
So because you were complaining about the coaches, your wife said, well, do something about it.
Yeah. But I had already been coaching before. I was sort of semi-retired.
Oh.
Between my boy and the grandson.
Well, tell me about your previous coaching.
Oh, I used to have a adult baseball team, that Manny's team that you saw.
Yeah, you have a picture here of, there it is. Yeah.
Manny's,
Yeah.
this one, that was my team. I made that team.
Uh-huh.
And I always had teams, kids, and I always got games for them, got guys together, and let's play, and we played ball. And I always let every single player play. There's nobody, I think there's only one guy, and one time an oversight that didn't play a game in all the games that we played. And some guy said, "Coach, why do you let him play? He's no good." Well, he paid his money, he come to practice so he can play. So I'm not here to, like I always bring this up. All these Little League coaches, if you go to a Little League park and you know who the coach is because of the shirt he's got, it says coach with neon lights, and then his assistant coach is prancing up and down the stands. Tell me if I'm wrong. His coach is prancing up and down the stands,
Mhm.
and then when he's talking to everybody else, they think they come to see them, they come to see the kids. And to me, you come to see your kid play, he's going to play.
Mm.
I mean, it's only fair. He's here. Why shouldn't he play?
So Bob, how many years did you devote to being a coach, a mentor, and are you doing anything in that vein now?
Yes, right now I'm helping Coach Sabrino High School varsity. This is my third year with them. But the attitudes are a heck of a lot different than, we mentioned the attitudes of coaches and I, between here and the high schools. Here is because they wanted to be here. The high schools because something to do, because they don't really have it to play. Just another, if your friends play, so I'll play. They don't really, work at it, let's put it that way.
So it's not a burning desire to be a baseball player.
Maybe one or two, maybe, but the rest they couldn't care less.
But how do you handle something like that as a coach?
As a coach, I tell them, you know what, this is like school. You miss a class, you miss what I taught yesterday, you're behind. So we'll play, and it's gonna show what you missed yesterday. And all this time I tell these kids about college. Hey, like see these guys, 2 years ago I started getting jobs. So everything that I had, there's another picture of bigger guys. This one here, this is one, they're bigger. Some of them are still here. They start getting jobs. And I tell me, why do you want to get a job? Why do you got to work nights? You can't play ball. You got to work at, say, at Norton at 9 o'clock at night. Get off at 4 in the morning, and you can't play ball. That's a job you're going to be doing 20 years from now. You're going to be sweeping and picking up the garbage or putting parts together. Go to school because everybody's going to pass you. And one year, this team here, prior to this one, I had everybody but one went to college. All 11 went to college except for one.
Very good.
I tell you, hey, go to school, go to school. Just go take anything in school, just go to school. You never know when you're going to need it. That's one thing they can't take away from you. So I always tell them, look ahead. No, this is just a phase that we're going through. This is going to be over. Then your real life's going to start.
Yeah, but Bob, being a coach takes so much time.
It does. But I'll tell you, my wife asked me, why do you do this? You say, you're not getting nothing out of it. It costs you money. I said, look, the reason I do this, I'd rather have a kid with me for 2 hours, twice a week or 3 times a week, than him going 2 or 3 times to the 7-Eleven and coming out with a bag of potato chips and running off in a car. I'd rather him be with me taking him away from that and to him this.
Now, in order for your players to go to college, that means they have to graduate from high school.
That's right.
So, what is the record of your players in terms of graduating from high school?
Graduating from high school, well, of this original team, we've already had, let me see, that I know of, because some of these guys I lost contact. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, about 5 out of this team went. But then 3 or 4 years ago, I had another team, and almost all of them went. 10 of them went.
But they've all graduated from high school?
No.
No.
Oh, yeah, all these guys graduated from high school, every single one. The reason they're on this team is because I show them how to play ball. There's no politics involved. You come to practice, you play. If you have a bad game, nothing is said. If you have a lousy game, nothing is said. If you had a good game, you might get an attaboy, because that's what you expect, results. So I keep telling them, hey, you guys do this, you guys going to do this. These guys think they're living for today. They're not living 3 weeks from now. I keep telling guys, this is just a phase you're going to go through. Pretty soon, nobody's going to care about you.
So you're teaching them discipline, you're teaching them to stay with it, and you're teaching them to take things seriously.
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you one thing. Elena, would you tell Frank what my grandson calls me? He's Jacob.
Coaching.
Coaching.
I don't think he knows my name, because ever since he's been alive, I've been coaching. So that's what he calls me, coachy. Coach. I don't even know if he knows my name. But he goes out there and all this, I try to instill discipline. I don't kid with him. I'm the coach. To you, I'm Coach Bob Carrasco or Coach. That's the only 2 names I have. I'm not hey, Albert, hey Shorty, hey Jack, or this. I don't cuss, I don't believe in that. And I just tell you the way it is, I tell you, and that's why well, you could have done it this way. No, I don't come barging at you, yelling at you. The thing you hear it at a ball game is a kid playing right field, and somebody telling, hey, get your head out of your butt. Don't tell me you don't hear that. Or what game are you watching? And I tell my kids they're daydreaming out there, say, hey, Albert, move in 2 inches. Now, what's 2 inches gonna do at 300 feet? Nothing, right? Or move right 3 feet, nothing. But I got his attention, I didn't embarrass him. You don't come in dugout like banging in his head, because coach just
Right,
shoot him
right.
out in front of, embarrass him in front of everybody. I tell my kids, you know what, I don't care if you make errors, I don't care if you strike out swinging at the high pitch you can't reach. I'd rather have you swing at a high pitch, because you might hit it. If you don't swing, you're not gonna hit anything. So I'd rather you try to hit it. And I don't like these coaches wait for a good, whatever you see, hit it. That's coach say, oh, wait for a good one, wait for a good, that's not your pitch. Any pitch is your pitch to me. If you can reach it, you can hit it. And I teach them responsibility. They say, oh, my mother didn't put it. It's not your mother's responsibility. You put your glove away. You know where your stuff is. You wash it. So a lot of these guys, you know, their uniform, by the end of 2 weeks, it looks kind of dirty. You know, when I had my teams, even my soccer teams, we bought him bags. And we chipped in for bags, and I should have brought one, a team bag. And they all have their own bag, and they all have their own ball, and they got to take care of their own ball, their own bag. And their suit goes in there, you take it off, you put it in there. And when you go ready, you don't look underneath the bed or outside the yard, you just pick up your bag because it's supposed to be there. That's not your mother's responsibility, it's yours. So I don't kid with them. Well, like I tell Coach, when I'm there, I have a break. I only get a 10-minute break, and it's a water break. 10-minute break, I go sit down over there and just look at the cars. And they can do all their BS they want over here. Okay? When I come back, now it's my time. And all that stopped, now it's my time. See, I don't butt in what they're doing here. I go there, sit over there, just talk to the coach, and nothing about what was happening over here. I come back, okay guys, it's time to go to work. It's time to go to work, the BS is over.
Uh-huh. Now, how did you develop that method of coaching, Bob?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm going to tell you about coaching. I was a commissioner of a soccer league. I made a soccer league at one time. I ran a soccer league. And one year I had up 20 teams. And they gave us a seminar at the Disney Hotel. And they told us about coaching. All of these coaches that yell, okay? They scream at you all the time. The coach that screams at you, he'll get you up here. Right there, he'll get you right here. The guy that says, well, good workout, but you did good, but you could have done it that way. He's getting up here. And this guy is still getting up here. I keep yelling at this guy's going like this. And this guy, you don't tell anything. Of course, he stays the same because you didn't say anything to him. But it shows you what you do to kids.
Mm-hmm.
You do it as adults. You do it in your house. Maybe the kids get, say he's a butt of all jokes at his house. He goes to school, and the teacher picks on him. He goes to the playground, and the kids pick on him. He comes back to school, there's the teacher again. He goes home, there's the dad. There's a big brother, there's everything. And then you come along, and you're just adding to it. So what are you doing to this guy's self-esteem? I always tell these kids, you know what? You did this, but there's ways to do everything. There's a right way, the easy way, and it's easier, the easy way to do it right, you want to do it over. But do it right the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Like my mama used to tell us, los huevones trabajan doble. First, to do what you didn't do, then do what you gotta do. Right?
So lazy people work twice as hard,
Right.
is what your mom said.
Yeah, right, yeah, first, because you didn't do it, and second, because you gotta do it over.
Now, Bob, you also were not only a ball player, baseball player and softball player, and a coach, but you were also involved in other sports, and you coach other sports. You mentioned soccer.
I've coached soccer,
Uh-huh.
and I've refereed soccer, and I umpired baseball, all levels up to college. In fact, soccer I like best to coach because soccer, there's no slack time. And in baseball, I count the coaches, coach, you know what I learned over the years, the less you handle the ball, the more your kids learn. Because you're not going to do anything in the game, right? I'm just doing your job for you, and you're not doing anything. How can you progress If you got the ball, and I'm not handling it. I go say, you know what, why don't you let these kids pitch? They're the ones gonna pitch in the game. You're not gonna pitch. They don't believe me, but so I said, hands on. So a guy can't throw strikes, but he will throw strikes if you let him. But well, coaches want to, they want to get the hard way and do it right the first time and throw it hard. And 'cause everything's got a base, like everything's got a base. Everything's got to start the base. And also, well, I don't know if I told you that I was also retired National Guardsman. I put 28 years.
I had no idea that you were in the service. Tell me about that.
I was in the National Guard for 28 years. I was a senior in high school, and some guy told me, hey, man, you want to make $3 a night? Just join the Guard. They pay you $3 every Monday. Wow. Well, so I joined the Guard in January of 1954 to give my $3. And the pay stayed like that for a long time. And then I finally, I had to quit because I had back surgery. And I couldn't pick up anything, so I had to retire from the Guard.
Uh-huh.
I put in 28 years in the National Guard. I also retired from the post office about 5 years ago. I put in 49 years, 4 months
With the post office?
at the post office. Now I can't even wake up in the morning. All my time at the post office was at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock, 5, 6. Never the least, it's always early.
Uh-huh. So how old were you when you started with the post office?
I think just from 22.
22? You were very young then?
Yeah, well, pretty young, yeah. But I would have started at 20, but I wanted to be real cool because they gave the test for a carrier, and I took it and I passed it. Then they gave the test for the clerk, and I passed it. And so then they canceled the first one out because you couldn't do both. So I had to wait for the next register to come out.
Uh-huh.
So in fact, I would have probably been a letter carrier if I hadn't taken it a second time.
Uh-huh.
But you couldn't do both. Now they give you a choice. What do you want to be?
And how was it working for the post office for 49 years?
Well, enjoyable
Uh-huh.
because I'm not gonna say. I feel like every time that I go is for something positive. Even when I go to a seminar or anything, I was given some advice that even the dumbest person knows something you don't know. So I always go to hear, even though I know what it's. Maybe I'll pick up something from him. Maybe I'll get an idea from there. Always listen to what they're saying. You can't put anybody down because you don't know everything. You think you might know everything, but you don't. But the Guard, I mean, it wasn't that hard. I mean, it was hard. Same thing as teaching school, except you got little commands,
Uh-huh,
a little bit more punishment.
Uh-huh.
And
And your unit was never sent overseas or?
no, the only unit, I think, we only had 3 things that we were sent. We got sent to Watts, the first riot,
That was 64?
69, I believe.
69?
69. The first riot, I was there. Then we had a flood in Upland. And then we had a fire at Mount Baldy. And the first one, it was in August, and it was just like a midnight when we got there. It was just like a carnival. Everybody's out there. It was like a big, gigantic party. People, starting fires, running around, drinking in the streets, hollering, everything, big party. The fire was at up here. And that's the first time they told me to drive a truck. I've never driven a truck. They told me, move this truck up there. I don't even know how to drive it. So I moved the truck up the hill. You can only go so far up those hills. There's no more roads. Here's my first time at track, driving a big truck and having it back up down the hill. Man, I tell you, I had my feet in my throat. I was going to go off the hill. And the flood, it was a dam that was going to break up in Upland. And they came and they declared martial law. So there wouldn't be, if you were in there, you were subject to arrest. You couldn't go in that oil. So they put guardsmen on, like every middle of the block, put guardsmen. And you could only go with a cop or a guardsman. And they told us in one of those nights, hey, the dam's about ready to break. And we were up about halfway up the hill. So what do you do? Is they tell us, well, just run like hell. I mean, how are you going to run downhill? The water's going to, you can't run uphill, you're going to run with the water. They give us hamburgers to eat. I'll give you a hamburger and it's ready cats and dogs.
Yeah. So it was kind of a, you kind of lucked out. You didn't go overseas.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
You worked with disasters or emergencies that happen
Yeah.
locally.
Yeah,
And,
we were fortunate.
yeah, you were very, very fortunate,
Mhm.
especially after 28 years.
Yeah,
And you were with the post office for 49 years.
yeah.
And like you said, that was a good duty. You enjoyed being working for the post
Oh,
office.
yeah, I'll tell you, the guys that work says, Bob, I sit at the case and it's got 79 holes. Here, got 49, some more over this side. How can you stand in being here? So you know what, I play games, I'm playing tic-tac-toe right now. The towns try to draw a line across, come across. Sometimes the guys bet on it, who gets the full case.
Uh-huh.
And I just make a game out of it. Time goes faster, no sense getting mad, I mean, day's gonna be longer. And if I don't wanna do it, I'm still gonna do it.
So you had ways of being able to cope with whatever
Everything.
confronted you.
Anything
Yeah.
confronted me.
Yeah. You mentioned you had two brothers. Pete is one of your brothers,
Uh-huh.
and Danny. Tell me about your brother.
Well, I'm 2 years older than Pete, and I think I'm 5 years older than Danny. So we grew up in the same house there on L Street, and we all grew up playing ball. Danny got the benefit of the doubt because we were bigger than him, and our mother's always out there looking out for him. And don't throw the ball so hard on him, you're gonna hurt him. Well, he's gotta learn how to catch. Well, Dad, leave him alone, he's just a little boy. But you saw how good he got. When he was 8 years old, he could play with adults because he was that good. And we grew up together there in Colton, and we still live in the area, all three of us. And Pete lives not that way someplace.
But Pete also played with a lot of ball with a lot of teams.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
In fact, I only played against him one time, and it was a softball game. But we
Yeah.
were mostly on the same team. Us three of us on the same team. But one time was on a different team, and we played them, and I remember we beaten them. And Pete was bad. He said, "Why did you have to come to this game? Why did you have to come to this game?" Anyway, in fact, my mother one time had to get on the field and told us to behave because we started giving the duck. Because I was a coach, and they wanted Mom had to come down. What's wrong with you boys? Settle down.
And your younger brother, Danny, he was on the Little League team that went to the World Series in 1954.
Right,
Yeah.
right. He's someplace in there.
Uh-huh.
He was 11 years old when he went. And on that team, almost half those guys on that team either played professional ball or played college ball. Almost all of them. There's only maybe 6 or 7. There's not so many left now.
Yeah.
But they had a real good team. In fact, I'm helping coach one of John Doty's sons.
You're
He's a
kidding.
coach.
You're kidding.
He's a coach at Shamrock High School.
You're kidding.
He said, "Did you know my brother?" He said, "You know my dad? Yeah, I know your dad. I know your grandpa, your grandma, and your uncles." So I said, "That's really nice." And I showed him some of these pictures. "Oh, that's nice. That's nice. It's something to see. You look back on it." But like I say, I enjoy coaching. The day I tell my wife, the day I start cussing at you, that's the day I quit because it's not fun anymore.
Well, it seems that you and your family, including your dad, were kind of legends as far as baseball and softball is concerned because all of you played. And all of you gave a lot of time into coaching and mentoring kids as they were growing up and playing on the ball field.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess your contribution to Colton has been being a mentor and a coach for many of the kids that grew up in Colton.
Yeah, and San Bernardino also.
And then you're still doing it in
Right.
San Bernardino.
I was going to say something about that. Oh, it's just slipped my mind. I had something to tell you about that coaching. That, like these guys here, they don't understand when you go out there that it's just like being in a classroom. To learn how to write, you had to do a lot of I's and W's and this and that. They don't understand to do this, you gotta do that over and over. And I tell them, guys, I admit practice is the boring thing in life. But I try to make it interesting because I'm not letting you sit down. I break you up into groups of 4 or 5, so you won't, so you won't have any free time. I'm doing different things. And so all you're doing, all these little things, it's just like you come out here, play. Everybody does his part, everybody does that part, everybody does that part. Game time, we put it all together. And if we did it right, it works. If you didn't do it right, it's not gonna work.
So it becomes a team.
It becomes a team.
It becomes a team when you need to go out there in the field and represent one team against another team.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
It's individual, but now you're a team, everybody's doing their little part.
Yeah.
Everybody's putting their little stick there.
Mhm. Bob, you say you still live in Colton,
Mhm.
and your brothers still live in Colton. How has Colton changed over the last, I guess, almost 60 years?
Well, I think Colton has changed so much that the people, well, there's so many new people before. I could go to Esteban's store from Westel, I knew where everybody lived. I could talk to everybody and say, buenas tardes, doña Celsa, buenas noches, buenas tardes, all the way down. And now you don't even know who lives 2 houses down from you.
Uh-huh.
People aren't as friendly as they used to be. And besides, in the old days, they take, also, you know, well, the TVs care a lot of that, because before there was no radio, everybody had a radio playing.
Right.
There was no TVs, and the ladies were usually outside, and they knew whose kid was out there. And before you got home, the notice had beat you home, but you just did.
So everybody took care of you in the neighborhood?
Yeah, everybody just, you know, they look for you, they all know what you're doing, I'm gonna tell your mama, you know, it's that.
Uh-huh.
And the people are a lot more friendlier then than they are now, I think. And they're more caring. And you have somebody say somebody got sick, everybody went to see the sick person. Well, he got sick, good thing it's not me. I'll go see him 3 days from now when he gets well.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And I have a thing right now that I'm gonna say to my wife, I'm gonna call my cousins before I die and talk to them, because I don't wanna go see him with the day he's got his hands crossed.
Uh-huh.
And my wife says, why do you do this? Why do you call them? They don't call you back. So they don't call me back. At least I'm not watching them.
Yeah. So the difference is that back then, people were more friendly.
More friendly,
They were more neighborly.
more neighborly.
They would kind of watch out for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, they would take care of their community.
Mm-hmm. Well, you used to think, just go look at the high school, the lunch hour, how it's taken care of. The kids don't care. San Marino High School, the ball field is, right after lunch is like the wind hit the garbage cans.
So the attitude is just very, very different
Very different.
from back then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Bob, let me ask you my last question. My last question is, what was the best thing that you remember growing up in Colton?
Hmm.
What is the best memory, the best thing that you remember growing up in Colton?
Well, I got a lot of good memories. But I think that one of the best memories was when we beat the Colton Mercuries. I hit a home run to beat them over the fence. The number 7 team had beaten the Colton Mercuries.
Where were you playing?
San Bernardino.
And what team were you playing
I was
for?
playing with 709, San Bernardino 709. There were so many good things. I mean, there's a lot of good memories. But I think that stands out the most. But I still have the ball someplace in the house.
So always a baseball player.
I was a baseball player. Yeah, it was something. I got baseballs all over the house.
Uh-huh.
We've always been the girls play too. And my grandson plays, but he doesn't have an attention span. He wants to, he said, well, if I touch the ball, that means I gotta work. But if I don't touch it, I don't have to do anything. That's it.
But your best memory was beating the Colton Mercuries. What was the score?
I think it was 8-7.
Oh, just barely.
Yeah.
Just barely.
In fact, I'm gonna tell you, we had Joe Castañon's probably the best catcher next to Juan Martinez's ever produced, Camilo. Colton had 3, we had 2 away on them. The 2 twins came up. What the twins came up?
The Abril
Real
twins.
came up. The coach put him on base. And then our Miguel came up,
Ooh.
and we walked him. Now we got 2 away and bases loaded. And my brother-in-law's coming up to play. He was no slouch of a hitter. And so we pitched to him, and he hits a smash to right field that same game. And my right fielder, he just backhands the ball back to it and just caught it. But he walked, you imagine, 3 of the top hitters to get to 1. But you don't walk 3 guys in a row, and he wasn't such a bad hitter either. They'll step forward, and then they would have won. They would have scored all those runs. But that was when the guy got the ball, my, that felt so good.
How old were you?
Oh, I must have been about maybe 30, but I was already big.
Uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh.
Yeah, and, yeah, it was a great feeling to finally meet the Mercury's here.
So
That's
that's
a-
one of your best memories, eh?
That's one of my best
Yeah.
memories, hitting the home run.
Well, Bob, thank you for being with us.
Well, glad to be here.
I surely enjoyed meeting together. It's about time because we've been talking about this
Oh, yeah.
for a long,
Oh,
long
yes.
time. And I do appreciate you coming down today
Mhm.
and also bringing many of your pictures to show us some of the experience that you had,
Mhm.
not only as a ball player but as a coach.
Mhm.
So thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for having me here.